Well, this craziness is catchy. Here's Republican candidate, another candidate for the Republican nomination, Debra Medina, last Friday in a debate with Perry and Kay Bailey Hutchison. Let's listen.
I want to make sure we have this clear. So you don't want secession?
I absolutely don't want secession. I have said that we need to aggressively use nullification interposition, aggressively. Ultimately, if that does not work, we've got to recognize that the Constitution left that right to the states.
Who is this, John Calhoun? Here's Martin Luther King, by the way, reminding all of us what interposition means and what nullification means. These are fighting words before civil rights. Here it is from his I Have a Dream speech. Here it is, quote, I don't even have rights to read. Here it is. Down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification. One day down, so there he is talking about, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there he is. Wait, I have to read the whole thing. We'll be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls, this whole thing, and that's the I Have a Dream today. I'm reading the whole thing. Okay, the point, though, was the interposition and nullification are the words of Jim Crow. And Wayne, here's this candidate for governor down in Texas in 2010 doing that.
Yeah, and I think you have to watch. When I watch Rick Perry on the stump talk about the 10th Amendment and say states' rights, states' rights, states' rights, and the crowd cheers, it kind of gives you a shiver, because that phrase is obviously freighted from the civil rights movement with some rather negative aspects. But that's what he's talking about. I mean, look, these people who cheer this are not all racists. I think this is not. But to suggest, to ignore the racial aspect of this, the nativist racial aspect of this, I think is to ignore the reality of the success and appeal of this pitch to a conservative Republican primary voting constituency.
Jim, you think that she knew what she was saying when she said nullification, interposition, and that Rick Perry knows what he means when he says secession?
I don't think that there's any question about it, Chris. I don't think they're doing a very good job of hiding it. And if you look at the crowds, those aren't exactly diverse crowds out there. And I take exception when the governor says we're part of the union. If we are, then why is he saying no to stimulus funds to help our schools, to help everybody else in this state? And I'd also like to ask people, if there were people from the Democratic Party representing Barack Obama or even Bill Clinton running around the country saying secession, they would be called the most vile anti-American types of individuals you could ever come across.
We've gotten used, Wayne first, we've gotten used in our public discourse recently to allow people to go as far right as they want to go and somehow claim they're more American than anybody else. Somehow the notion that if you're for secession, if you're interposition, you're for nullification, you're more American than for someone who abides by the Constitution. I mean, this has really gotten crazy. I mean, not crazy, it's gotten distorted.
Well,
I mean, that's not conservative to talk like that. That's not conservatism.
Well, I think it's a tough guy conservatism that appeals to a particular constituent. Remember, we're going into a primary in Texas where 1 million people are going to vote. They're very conservative. It's a constituency, 1/3 of which considers themselves born-again Christians who go to church twice a week. We know from our metrics that's a very conservative group. The other day, a guy had a gun on the Capitol steps, was shooting. Nobody was hurt. He was taken down by security. But the answer from the governor, when asked whether we needed to put metal detectors in the Capitol and beef up security, was nope. What we need to do is have more people carrying guns on the lawn. That'll take care of these kind of problems. True.
Well, what do you make of this, Jim? I just don't know what to say what's happening in Texas.
Well,
I know it's been moving conservative over the years, but this isn't conservative. This is right-wing.
Well, I think a part of what Perry is doing right now is obviously he's got to whip the base up into a frenzy, Chris, because we haven't had a Republican primary in this state since the Civil War. So he's got to get the people who are generally marginalized in the general election. He's got to get them out. That's part of what he's doing. But remember, there is a germ of truth, and more than a germ of truth, in the things that he's saying and the things that he believes.
Well, we'll keep looking for that germ. Thank you, Wayne Slater. Thank you, James Moore. Up next, the late-night comedians go to town with Sarah Palin's Crib Notes. They're loving this one. Check out the sideshow. It's coming up next. You're watching Hardball, only on MSNBC.